We've had a number of other injuries that caused us to make some subsequent moves. Sean Davis has been placed on IR with a shoulder injury. We went out and acquired Mika from the Dolphins. We really studied Mika really closely in the process of leading up to the draft. It was no secret that we were in the market for high-end safety. In fact, we ended up drafting Edmonds later in the round. We did our due diligence. We looked at Mika. We knew it was somewhat of a pipe dream because of his global positioning in the draft. But having gone down there for both Alabama Pro Days and interviewed him and spent time with him, it really made this process a clean process for Kevin and I in terms of decision making. Because
over 24 hours, so I can't say too much. But like I said, the overall coaching for Pittsburgh and Houston. Pittsburgh is a winning coach, it's a winning team. It's a team that focuses on tough physical. We're going out there and dominating the opponents. So just Pittsburgh on us right now. We just can't turn it around. Watching every game. This first game, playing that game.
And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Ritchie, here on the Mad Steel Podcast.
this thing belongs to Mr. Rooney, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this damn thing back in next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers take it the hard way.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush,
And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of the Mad Steel Podcast here with me, Charles Project Ritchie, as I'm usually here on every Mondays and Wednesdays, usually at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just running a little bit late tonight. Apologize for that. But anyway, we just saw earlier in the week, as a matter of fact, the Steelers made a bold move, as a matter of fact, as it was learned that shortly after, later on in the evening, when Ben Roethlisberger's season was done, after having to go season-ending surgery on his right throwing elbow, and where he was put on the reserved and injured list, making the season officially over. As a matter of fact, you had Sean Davis, who was having a shoulder injury that was lingering, that was reported following the game when we learned about it. And what happens? You also look further, like on the southeast coast in South Beach in Miami, you also had Mika Fitzpatrick and a lot of players on the Miami Dolphins who were getting uncomfortable with the atmosphere, wanted to get out out of that situation. And guess what? Pittsburgh Steelers decided to send a first and fifth round 2020 draft pick along with next year's sixth round 2021 draft pick to sign and acquire via trade Mika Fitzpatrick. Also, in addition to Mika Fitzpatrick, the Steelers do get some draft compensation back in return. They will receive a fourth round pick for this year's 2020 draft, as well as a seventh round pick for the 2021 draft, which will be next year, as a matter of fact, as we look at. But right now, we're here live on the Metal Steel Podcast. If you guys want, feel free to get on the show. Number to be reached, as always, is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at Project Ritchie. You can also check me out on my Instagram stream right now. That's Metal Steel Nation. And also feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Metal Steel Podcast, as we get ready to move along here. But like I said, a lot of people, it's been kind of mixed reaction right now to the Mika Fitzpatrick deal. This is a move, as a matter of fact, that the Steelers have not did in 50 plus years. And the last time they were without a first round pick in this franchise history was back in 1967. So this is about 2 years before Chuck Noll came over, and where they had a succession of coaches, having 3 coaches within 50 years at that point in time. And you know the Steelers, I mean, they always pride themselves about not wanting to trade away their future to acquire a top-level player. I mean, they always like to choose to reserve their future. But as Brian Diardo also noted, too, of CBS Sports, he can be followed on Twitter at Brian Diardo. Remember, the Steelers, they've never really won the Super Bowl without premier safety, if you really think about things. I mean, to his credit. And when you look at it right there, I mean, at this point in time, yeah, I mean, you got to be – I know it sounds a little desperate, but at the same time, too, now as we continue to move around more and more and think about what happened, why the reason they did it, Mike Tomlin even said, too, it was more because after learning about Sean Davis, knowing that they're going to have to put him on IR, and he's not done for the season, by the way. Remember, the reserve and injury list, you got to at least wait a minimum of 8 games before you're cleared to come back to the team. So this is not season ending for him. I mean, Sean Davis, remember, he only missed like the first game so far this season, and it was opening night against the New England Patriots, and where we saw Cameron Kelly try to fill in his shoes that night. And obviously, the first 2 games of defense has definitely been horrific, but at the same time, too, I mean, I'm listening to like Ed Bouchette, and Mark Caboli of The Athletic on their podcast that they usually host time to time. They'll be chiming in the Immaculate podcast. You could download that on The Athletic. If you're a subscriber, make sure to check them out. But, yeah, I think right now what their questioning is right now, what is if Mason Rudolph doesn't pan out, he's not the next Ben Roethlisberger. So if you do need to go get yourself a quarterback, try and get one in the first round, they took a very big chance in a way. But at the same time, too, I got to trust the fact, too, that, I mean, when you look at a guy like Kevin Colbert, who's been very successful with running this team since taking the job back in 2000, I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, this guy has done a tremendous job putting his team in position. I know it sounds like a little questionable, but at the same time, too, you have to get Mike Tomlin involved. And me personally, I mean, watching also as a fan and also covering this team, I'm glad they at least made a message they're going to go ahead and take a risk. I mean, it may not be the most popular move. I mean, giving up the future you have, your draft capital. But I think at the end of the day, too, when you really look at it, I think you got to, like, make those choices sometimes. I don't think you want to necessarily be totally gun-shy. I mean, this is a guy who's 22 years old. He was in the same draft class as Terrell Edmunds overall. And at the end of the day, too, I really believe the Steelers did do their due diligence on this one. I mean, obviously they had communication. They missed out on drafting him about a year ago. He gets drafted by the Miami Dolphins. I want to say 11th overall in the draft. And when you really think about it, too, it's just, why not? I mean, the only thing is they are 0-2, yes, but I've also seen signs of this defense, such as in the Seattle game. I mean, when you have 4 sacks like you did in the first half, and then also you had good aggressive strip fumbles. I mean, granted, they haven't made any interceptions barely just yet, but the thing is, too, I do see this team becoming takeaway savvy. And anything, you know what, when you really look at the way I evaluate this pick, it's kind of like you're getting like a delayed draft pick, in my opinion. I mean, this guy right there who's been getting some unnecessary criticism of Minkah Fitzpatrick when coming in here, I mean, the way he was being played in Miami, I mean, when you really think about it. And I think one of the things, too, I mean, it just who's the guy who's been traded from the Miami Dolphins. I mean, at the same time, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, this is a guy right here who I guess you could say is playing a little bit with a chip on his shoulder, primarily because of the way he got used in Miami. But I mean, at the same time, too, I mean, look at it. I think right now, I'm not saying he's gonna be the savior of the season, but like I said, I mean, this is a guy right here who a lot of people were frustrated, like if he was not willing to play in the box or whatever. And that's all. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, remember, I mean, it was made knowledge on Thursday that him and his agent were looking for a trade. And that's all. I mean, one of the things too, I mean, according to Flores, who, by the way, had a quote on him, as a matter of fact, he was saying that I think Minka's a good player. We've talked about his role all week. Flores said he's going to be a big part of the game plan. I think he's going to go out there and play well, to be honest with you. That was his, I think his previous head coach at the time, as a matter of fact. But when you look at it, too, overall, I mean, with this, I mean, the Miami Dolphins has definitely been a mess of an organization right now. A lot of players have been disgruntled, wanting to change the scenery. Very shocking that you would see like one of your young draft prospects, which by the way will want out and want to seek a new team, as did other players who definitely felt like the franchise was going in the wrong direction. So when you look at it from that aspect, I mean, Brian Flores, who was head coach, I mean, he's definitely got a lot of stuff to figure out right now. He's got a lot of stuff in his basket, as a matter of fact. But I do feel like for the Steelers right now, I'm all for like tweaking whatever you need to do. I mean, on this, I mean, think about it. I mean, when we look at the latest like injury report, as a matter of fact, as of right now, the injury report for right now, we do have at least 3 starters who did not practice. And that, of course, is Joe Hayden, quarterback, who's dealing with a shoulder injury. They also had James Conner, who has a knee injury, and Vince Williams, hamstring. Those guys did not practice. Of course, as we know, Roosevelt Nix is also dealing with a knee injury as well. So his timetable return is unknown. But plus, you also had tight end Vance McDonald, who had back injury. He did practice today, but it was limited practice today. So that's one sign of good news, I guess, say, that kind of come out as far as like the injury report, as we get ready to see them go into San Francisco. I mean, the last time they won in San Francisco was back in 1999, I believe it was, and that was with Cordell Stewart as your quarterback at that moment. And now, I mean, the 49ers look like a completely different team right now, which, by the way, has been making some strides. I mean, as a matter of fact, you finally got a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo overall. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, they're 2-0 to start off the year. Got their head coach Kyle Shanahan right now, and one of the biggest notable things about them, I mean, they're right now they're 9th in total defense, 7th in league offense, and one of the biggest things about them too, I mean, is also their rushing game as well. So their rushing game, as of right now, I mean, they're ranked 4th overall in yards and 10th in passing. So those are some big things to take a look at right there when they go into this Sunday's matchup. As that's going to be a late 3:25 game on, I want to say CBS. That game is that'll be coming up, and this will be the last official week of summer. So that's going to be a Sunday, like I said, at 3:25 p.m. That's going to be on CBS. It has been confirmed as it is throughout the season. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts, criticism, concerns about this Mika Fitzpatrick deal, as we are on the Men of Steel podcast. Again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie. Check out my Instagram stream, Men of Steel Nation. And you can also check me out on my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. And like I said, let's keep a log here as we are on the opening drive. As a matter of fact, according to Mark Caboli of The Athletic, the Steelers right now have about $55 million worth of their cap space dedicated to players who won't play for him this year, injury reserve, and dead money. And most of that money right now that he is referring to, when you break it down, I mean, as far as like the dead money, you got who are not on the roster this year, I mean, that moved on from them. I mean, you got about $27.20 million in dead money. Then, of course, you also got right now, as far as your injury reserve, $27.9 million. And then, of course, you got Ryan Shazier, who's on the physically unable to perform list. I mean, which they already placed him on at the beginning of the season, so he's already been known. But yeah, I mean, those are a lot of notable things right there when we look at it here with the Steelers. And a very sad thing, and a lot of people are really feel like are starting to doubt this could be like a 6 or 11 win team or whatever. I mean, right now, I mean, they're even thinking they'll be lucky if they hit like 7 wins this year. I mean, it's definitely not like the best encouraging sign for right now, but I do tend to believe right now that Colbert and them, they do got a game plan. They do still feel good about their chances, like what they got Mason Rudolph. I mean, obviously they feel like the technique, the style mirrors some of Ben Roethlisberger. It's just going to matter if it comes down to execution, how he does on the field. I mean, at this point in time, when we really look at it, I mean, is he going to be the guy that could take them, rally along this team? And it's not just so much Mason Rudolph, but the players playing around him is going to be the biggest thing right now. And that's where I feel like right now, where we look at it, is can he do enough to do the impossible where they can make a playoff spot? And if he does, I think that's going to be the biggest test for him right now. I think a guy like Mason Rudolph, I see this guy right here who's going to be decent in my opinion. But I mean, it's still yet to be known, like what kind of durability is he going to have overall moving forward with this team. And I think that's the biggest concern you have to look at. And when we take a look at like how he's going to help make or break this team. So it's a lot of unknowns, but like I said, I mean, more than likely a lot of people are anticipating the Steelers probably go 0-3 after this weekend in San Francisco. I mean, we'll see about that part, but at the same time, like I said, let's wait and see how this hand plays out, because then after that, they got a Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I mean, that's going to be your main. And I already knew, like, one of the things I said before the start of this year was going to be that big month of September. I definitely felt it was going to be a rough one to come out of the gate with and come out swinging, because New England Patriots, I mean, like I always said, a lot of people anticipate them being an older team and probably – not an older team. I mean, like Tom Brady more particularly. You know, so he can finally start showing his age. And the Steelers are going to catch lightning in the bottle again and play a good defense like they did at home late last year in about week 15. And it completely backfired. It bombed in their face big time when we look at it. And I think for right now, when we look at it, yeah, it's definitely been a shamble of it's been a shambles so far, including the way they lost the game in Pittsburgh against Seattle. And there's just been a lot of worries. It's just more the guys helping out Rudolph around them. I mean, are we going to see more of James Washington helping out Juju Smith-Schuster? Are we going to see more continuously of Vance McDonald getting in there. I mean, are we going to see a lot of stuff like that when we look at it that's going to really play good around Rudolph? I mean, another thing is, too, they've yet to have a solidified running game ever since they moved on from Le'Veon Bell. That's been one of the biggest truths in the matter. And it's definitely being exposed right now. This is a team right now who has an identity crisis right now at this point in time with trying to get those studs right now. They're trying to still show they're winnable and that the season can be salvageable. And this is a team right now who's heard many times before when their backs are pushed against the wall. Yeah, it's a lot more of a different circumstance. And, I mean, death row right now, when you're without your quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, it's like the Transformers moving on without Optimus Prime. I don't know if a lot of people who grew up watching that show, Transformers from the 80s, but when you had like Hot Rod who became Rodimus Prime. That's kind of how I look at it with the Steelers, in my opinion, at this point in time. And you look at it and you start to wonder, what is it that they need to really pay attention here? I mean, when you look at it. And I definitely feel like right now what they look at it is that, you know, Rudolph, they like his mechanics, they like his work ethic, they like his determination, they like his attitude, and they definitely feel like someone he could rally around, he could fire up with his team. But the biggest thing, too, him and James Washington, remember that chemistry that was always reported in Oklahoma State, they definitely felt good that's going to be like a future duel one day. And so we'll get to see it this year. Hopefully that comes to fruition. Now let's get ready to move into some fair or foul here on the Men of Steel podcast. Again, if you guys want, feel free to get on the show. The number to be reached once again is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on my Twitter page at Project Richie. You can also check out my Instagram stream, Men of Steel Nation. You can also check me out my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. And here we go with fair or foul topic number one. Bad omen that the Steelers gave up their first round pick for this year, even though they already gave up their fifth round pick in this year, along with a sixth round pick in 2021. But the first round pick, bad omen for the Steelers. And the way they got it, Finga Fitzpatrick. I'm going to have to say foul for right now. I mean, we got to wait and see how this deal unfolds. Is he going to be a guy that helps the secondary? Is he going to be a big reason right now where he's going to step in there and he's going to be able to adapt real quick and help a Steelers defense that needs to be more aggressive on the defense and be more turnover savvy and a little bit more lockdown? That's the biggest question when we look at it. And I think for right now, when we look at it, I think that's the thing where I get a little concerned at, and when we look at it. But, yeah, I definitely feel like right now it's going to have to be foul. I mean, yeah, this is something that hasn't happened in 50-plus years, but I definitely feel like for right now when we look at it, I mean, let's find out. So I'm going to have to say foul on that one. I'm not too sure where we have to look at it and how we're going to evaluate this. Only time will tell. I mean, it's going to be more so if Rudolph could be that guy that could be the winner for this team and take him to the next level of play when we look at it. But, yeah, let's find out. Also, we got fair or foul topic number two. Shell Capedia of The Athletic grades the Steelers' acquisition of Minkah Fitzpatrick as a C-. Fair or foul? I'll have to say fair for right now. I mean, like I said, I'm not too sure about the bad omen part, but I definitely do feel like right now that, yeah, they did get a little desperate. But I mean, at the same time, too, I think they do realize they're in a position right now where they definitely feel like they could use some guys to help right now. They definitely feel like the season is still salvageable. And not only that, I think they're a team right now who look at it where it's like, you know, we could still make a run at this. We're not done yet. We've seen our backs to the wall before. We lost some valuable guys in the past. Why can't this be any different when it comes to Steeler football? And that's the thing where I think they got to re-look some things. And that's all. I just feel like you can't look at it from that area. But yeah, I definitely feel like right now where you have to be careful is that let's just find out. I mean, at this point in time, I just feel right now it is a C- grade because we just don't know what's going to happen. But if they can get a win in San Francisco this weekend and get a weekend the following week against the Bengals, we'll find out. But if they could even get like a wild card this year, I'm not saying they're going to get the division. That's going to probably most likely come down to the Ravens or the Browns. Probably more so the Ravens at this point in time. But I do feel like right now it's only time will tell, and by the results as we take a look at things. So that's going to do it for this edition here of the Metal Steel Podcast. As you can always check me out with me, Charles Bradley Ritchie, usually every Mondays and Wednesdays as we take a look at things. Right now, you can always follow me on my Twitter at Praj Ritchie. And then also, by the way, too, before we go any further, number update. Mika Fitzpatrick, he's be wearing the number 39. The last person who wore 39, remember, that was on offense, and that was none other than Fast Willie Parker, who was a running back for the Steelers. He made that very long run in the Super Bowl. So I don't know if that's anything of significance to keep in mind right there as we look a little bit further. But, yeah, I think those are the only things I can look at right now. Again, I mean, Kevin Colbert, I mean, I wonder if this is also a move, too, when we look at it. How much, I mean, do they really feel right now about Ben Roethlisberger announcing that he does intend to honor his contract? He still's got a few more years left on his deal. He's got 2 more years. And he still wants to try to give it a run, even though he's going to be turning 38 next March. So, I mean, with Ben Roethlisberger kind of reaffirming that he intends to battle through this and not retire and hang it up yet, I think that's going to be another encouraging sign why they were able to make a trade for Mika Fitzpatrick. So, again, I'm going to have to cut out. But for right now, I want to say thank you for those views tuning in here on the Metal Steel Podcast. Remember, you can search the Metal Steel Podcast page on Facebook. That's Metal Steel Podcast. You're type in Metal Steel Podcast or look for it at Metal Steel Nation. That's capital M, capital S, and capital N. And then you can also check me out on my Instagram stream, Metal Steel Nation, my YouTube channel, Metal Steel Podcast. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.